Hello everyone all over the world. So today I want to talk about life after college. What is it really like? The truth, the good, and the not so good, or rather just the bad. We'll find out today. So if you don't know me, my background is that basically I went to college. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. I've worked as an engineer, a construction, and I've bounced between so many different jobs, but I was one of the rare ones because back in college I basically took classes across all sorts of different things. Like I took creative classes, theater classes, business classes, humanities, all sorts of different things. So I say this why is because I think that ultimately every single person once they graduate college is going to have a very, very different kind of experience, really depending on what you do. Some people might end up going to grad school, which technically if you do go to grad school, it means you never really left and graduated college. You're still in college technically. Some people might get jobs, which is probably what most people do. Some volunteer, some join the military, some become pro athletes, some join the NBA, and I say this because I know a couple people that actually joined the NBA, so I've been all over the place. So everyone's gonna basically scatter, but I'm gonna basically make this video and tell it to you from the perspective of someone that graduated college with an engineering degree, got a typical job, and then eventually left that corporate lifestyle and has ever since moved on to do his own projects, pursue his own passion, interest, and all sorts of different things. Oh yeah, by the way, so normally I do like narrated style videos, just to like a quick note, but today I'm gonna do like on-face camera just to maybe give a little bit of a personal touch to it, and also because this video is about my own personal story. So, you know, let me know like what you guys think about it, if you prefer narrated videos, face-to-face, or maybe a combination of both. Let me know. So I'm gonna start talking a little bit about the not so good stuff about college, just so we can hopefully end on a better, good note, and also because a lot of the good stuff are kind of things that you can do to respond to a lot of the bad stuff that might be about life after college. And I think the first thing, so the truth is, you know, I'll be honest, when I talk to most of my friends, people that I know that have graduated college and all that kind of stuff, I personally think that it is not uncommon to feel that the first couple of months after college, especially if you are someone that had an incredibly glorious, fun time during college, it can be really depressing in a lot of ways. But it depends on how you look at it. You know, they say that post-college depression is an actual legitimate, very, very common thing. And I know I was personally a victim of it too for a good period of time after I had graduated college. When you graduate college, you're basically in a lot of ways starting life from almost like the beginning again. The only thing you can take with you is basically your degree, your knowledge, everything that's here, and everything that you basically built up while you were in college. But otherwise, basically everything outside of that, most of your friends, most of the people you know, a lot of them are basically going to scatter all around the world. And I think that the most depressing part about life after college is really having to basically rebuild your life again and realize that so many of the close friends that you might have had are basically going to scatter, and you may never know the next time or even ever if you're even going to see them again. And I think having to say goodbye to so many different people has been probably the most depressing part about life after college. In a lot of ways, you're basically like restarting your life all over again. You're a smarter and better person, but you're also playing a very different game now. You're not in the school system anymore. You're playing a totally brand new one, and you're basically writing like the next chapter of your book, kind of like the premise of this channel, which is write your life. You know, it's always been about trying to create a better life for yourself. I think the other very, very hard thing is that you might have to start getting used to a brand new routine again, or depending on your job, you might not even have a routine. And I think that that's basically been the hardest thing is having to kind of rebuild your life schedule all over again. For some people who grab like a standard 9 to 5, they might find their lives incredibly routine now. They're always just coming to work, doing almost the same thing, going home, all that kind of stuff. And even life outside of work, you know, you might have to find a case where you now have to schedule, do I want to go to the gym during the daytime, the nighttime? You might not have access to as many clubs, activities, and so many different social opportunities again. And I know one thing that I've also noticed is even if you don't necessarily you lose access to a lot of your friends, say for example you happen to be one of the very lucky ones who happens to move in, and let's say you have a lot of your closest friends in the same city as you, or maybe they even work in the same company. The hard thing though is that as you start to graduate college, a lot of people start to become really, really busy. So most of your friends, they're either going to really, really scatter around, or if they don't scatter around, there's a very, very good chance that they may still be around around, but they'll always be really busy. Maybe either because they took some kind of job or career path that involves very, very long hours, like med school, law school, investment banking, public accounting, construction, anything that involves incredibly strenuous hours. Or the other thing is they might just be tired. There's a lot of people that once they graduate college, they may easily tire, or they may not really have that drive or energy anymore to really go out and spend time as often. And I think that that's really been another hard thing about it. You might even find it significantly harder to meet new friends again, depending on where you work. I think the other hardest thing for me personally that I really miss about college is just how close you are to so many people around the same age as you. You know, back in college, it was so easy to meet different people as long as you were decently social. You basically woke up, you studied, you ate, you went to classes, you studied, you grinded, you partied, you did clubs together, you might have even traveled, did service trips, all that kind of different programs, internships, maybe even work, all together with basically people all right around the same age as you. But once you leave college, for a lot of people, this stuff ends. And I think that that can be some of the hardest things that might come after college. The other thing I know that really might suck about life after college is that for so many people, it's not uncommon to find a case where you might end up in a job that you don't even like. You know, or maybe there are many people I know that personally ended up in jobs that they kind of were like jobs that you did like. They liked their jobs, but it was kind of like not perfect. And I think that there's definitely a level of nostalgia about what it was like in college. They're kind of like the jobs where it's like, it's manageable, it pays the bills, it works, but every day you show up to work, you kind of will still always get that feeling inside. It's like, you know, either because it's a routine or because it's okay, but it doesn't totally excite you. You kind of have that mental aspect. It's like, is this it? I feel like there's gotta be something even better out there, but you don't really know what it is. And I feel like having that quarter life crisis of not knowing truly what you're trying to do, what you really want to do, if this is the lifestyle you want to live for the rest of your life, and what you want to do career-wise, that can be a very difficult part about life after college. You know, life can also start to get very expensive. And while it is true that back in college, yes, you did have to pay tuition and all that kind of stuff, chances are though is that first off is that there's a lot of people, and I guess I was very lucky there, we went to college on a scholarship. But even if you didn't, hopefully you were someone that maybe even had your loans, something that you had to worry about into the future, or maybe you had parents that could help you pay for different things. But after college, a lot of people, especially if you start moving out on your own, you might have to start to worry about bills, paying back your loans. You don't have access to as many student discounts anymore. Things aren't as free all the time. Like back in college, if I wanted even like a shirt, I sometimes could just go to an event just to get for the sake of getting a free t-shirt. But that stuff isn't as common anymore after you graduate college. I know for a lot of people, they might even say that because you have less access to people your age, dating might be another thing that's much more different. Now, I actually have found dating much better after college, but that's kind of a little bit of a different thing. And there's actually, in my personal opinion, most people will probably say dating is much harder after college. I personally think it's actually easier, but there's a very specific why, but that probably is for a video for another day why I think that way. But more on that, yeah, another time. Now, with all of that bad stuff aside, we're going to talk a little bit now about the more positive side about college. Because as depressing as I made it sound in the first couple of minutes in this video, I do think there's actually a couple of positive things about college, about life after college, but you do have to really hustle hard and create and write your life to make it that way. And I think the first great thing, what I love so much about life after college now, is that you don't have to worry about schoolwork. All of those crazy late nights, lack of sleep, banging out marathon of homework, back and forth, grinding exams, all those moments of panic, you know, not knowing what the heck I'm doing on this particular exam, being lost, writing papers, and having to take so many classes that you know have absolutely no relevance to what you're trying to do in life or any goals that you're trying to accomplish, but the only reason you do it is just for the sake of fulfilling some kind of requisite on top of your graduation requirements. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff ever again. Potentially, unless you go to grad school. And that's one thing I love so much about it. And I think it's that everything after college that you do, life starts to get a lot more practical. And I think that's what I really love about it, is that you have a lot more control now over what you try to do during your, because if, say for example, now you really want to build a career in real estate or medicine or doctor or as an engineer or as an entertainer or anything like that, you now can focus all of your efforts into trying to build up that career. You don't have to split your time between all sorts of different random things that have absolutely no relevance to you. Everything becomes really, really practical, and I think that's something I love about it, is that everything that I do after college, I feel, really seems to be towards a certain thing that I really, really care about. This is with the assumption that you hopefully chose some kind of major or career path that you actually enjoy and that you really want to be able to build towards. The second thing that I love about life after college is that, now this one depends a lot more about your job, but if you take some kind of job that has pretty good work-life balance, because I know again it depends on your industry, if you have a job that has pretty decent work-life balance whatsoever, because you don't have to do so much homework and crazy and all that kind of stuff again, you might even find yourself in a case where you have even more free time now. So now, I remember back in college there were so many different things that I wanted to work on, like my music. I wanted to think about putting together a YouTube channel, but because every single time I did it, I would get an engineering assignment, and then I finish it, and then I get more assignment, and then back and forth, and it just continues on, and I'm never resting, while having to balance this between my part-time job, my internship, my clubs, my activities, all the different things that were going around. I volunteered, I was part of a music group, all sorts of different things, that it was just a massive grind. And I think it's that because of that, I had to squeeze every single thing inside of that 4-year time span, that now that I'm out into the real world in college, I finally have a lot more free time, I feel, to be able to work on these projects now. And I think that that's another huge thing that I love about it, is that you now have much greater control over how you spend your day outside of your work-life schedule. The third thing I also like about life after college, I think, is that on the social aspect, which is kind of reverse, is that even though it can be much harder to meet new friends, now I will say this, there's a lot of ways you can meet friends after college, but you have to learn the system. It's a little bit different because you don't have as ease compared to college. But I think that on the social level, while you might not have access to as many people your age anymore, what I love so much more, I think, is that people also tend to be a lot more mature. And I think that the social environment tends to open up a lot greater now. And I think that after college, there were some times that you might have a certain person back in college that maybe you wanted to date or to do something with, but because you guys were not in the same club, or because maybe she just had so many different options, it was so hard to do that, but I feel like after college, people tend to be a lot more mature. And I think because of that reason, it's also much easier to be able to restart. Because another thing I didn't really like so much about college is that back in college, because things were kind of a very, very small world, I mean, it still is a small world, but on a totally different scale. If you went to some kind of mid to even small size school, and say for example you had a conflict with someone else, there was a good chance that that person could now possibly gossip and just start talking about you behind your back to all sorts of different people, and now their friends are suddenly just not going to like you anymore anytime they see you, and they don't even know you. They don't even know you. They don't even have to know you. They don't even have to have met you or even shaken your hands. Just because of what someone else told them, they just don't like you anymore. And that's a pretty immature thing in my personal opinion. And I think after college though, things start to get really, really wide and open. And that's what I really, really love about it, is that I think people tend to be a lot more mature. There's a lot less of that immaturity stuff that kind of goes on. And every time you meet someone new, more or less, you're meeting them as a fresh face, and you can kind of just see them. Whether this is a significant other, a friend, a coworker, a boss, just generally. And I think the fourth and final thing that I really want to talk about, I think, about life after college, is that I think that while it's very, very difficult sometimes, because you have to build where the ground is much, much lower, but the ceiling is a lot higher. What is nice though, I think, is that after college, things have much, much greater longevity. And I think that because back in college, something I didn't really like so much is that because I never really felt settled. I felt that everything I wanted to do, everything on my bucket list, I had to basically cram into the time span about 4 or 5 years, which is the reason why I rarely ever even slept in college, because I wanted to basically be able to balance everything, between my, again, workload, job, internship, clubs, activities, music, my projects, all that kind of, my social life, parties. I wanted to experience a lot of this stuff. I feel like what's really, really nice about after college now is that you kind of have that sense that almost anything you build up after college, there is much greater potential that it can last much longer. It also means though is that in order to set yourself up for a great life, after you graduate college, you also have to make sure that you really know yourself. And I think that absolutely has to be a goal that you try to make while you're in college, is to find yourself, know what you're interested in, take a whole bunch of different classes, and then really understand what kind of goals you're trying to achieve. And it can always change, but it's to really be able to know yourself better. Because if you end up in some kind of career that you don't like, and then you end up starting to inflate your lifestyle, buying expensive cars, increasing your loans, taking out a mortgage, buying a house that you really cannot really afford, you start getting married and things get very, very expensive and all that kind of stuff, you're going to potentially end up in what I call the rat race cycle, where you're now going to be in a continuous cycle over and over again, where you're showing up in a job that maybe you don't like, but you have to work there now to get the money. You get the money, you pay off, then you work, you get the money, you pay off, you get the work, pay off, money, all that kind of stuff, and it ends up in a never-ending cycle. And because you're now basically stuck in a total hamster wheel, you potentially now have to be in that system for however long you can possibly think of, until potentially even retirement. There's a lot of ways you can leave that hamster wheel, but let's be honest, is that for a lot of people, when you become very, very comfortable with a certain lifestyle, even if that lifestyle is something that you really need to sometimes give up that comfort to be able to progress and do something even greater, because there's only so much space for every little thing in your life, it becomes harder because now you become so comfortable that you might be a lot more resistant to changing. But it does mean though is that if you do set yourself up to pursue a career that makes money, that can pay the bills, but that you actually really, really enjoy and you're very, very passionate about and you love that lifestyle, it means that what you have now built, you can potentially have for life. Not for some kind of like 4-year kind of different thing. Again, everything can always change, but the likelihood and the longevity, I think, of everything you do after college tends to be much, much greater. So to sum it up is, I remember when I was asking a couple people back when I was still a college student what life was like after college. I think the general idea is that when you finish college, your floor now starts to sink and it's incredibly, incredibly low. But the ceiling that you have is basically much, much greater, sometimes even inexistent, in the sense that because your starting point now is really, really low. You don't have the support system like back in college of like going to so many different resources and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, what is really, really nice now is that your potential now is significantly greater. The highest and most successful person now in your circle doesn't have that limit of 4 years. What used to be 4 years can now potentially be a lifetime. What used to be a short-term project can now potentially be a long-term business of some kind. Don't quote me on this, I'm just like thinking about it. But I think the CEO of FedEx, Fred Smith, basically started FedEx as like a paper or like it was a paper, an assignment of some kind, and I think he actually bombed that assignment. But then eventually he took that paper, he said, screw you professor, if you don't believe in me, I'm gonna do my own shit. He basically left, started FedEx. It actually struggled in the very, very beginning, but today it's a multi-billion-dollar company. You know, so that's what I mean. Hope this kind of helps and paints a better picture. If there are any questions, feel free to drop them down below. I'm still a very, very small YouTuber. I'm currently sitting down at an incredible number of 17 awesome subscribers. Let's go. I know it's not 17,000, it's not 17 million or anything like that, but it's a number. There's actually someone out there that's watching it. Even if it's such a small number, there's someone there. But yeah, maybe let me know what you guys think. Maybe if you have not graduated college yet, let me know what you guys are, how you guys are feeling right now. What are you most afraid of, or what are you most excited for about graduating college? And also, really congrats if you are someone that's going to graduate soon. Or if you've already graduated, what your experience has been like. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's it been like for you? Because of course, everyone always has a very different experience. But hopefully you enjoy that. If you did like that, like, comment, subscribe as usual. Or if you didn't like that, feel free to share your thoughts. That's okay. Just let me know like what we could do to improve next time, because again, we're still new, so we're kind of moving all over the place to really figure out what we want to do with this channel going forward. Hope you guys like it, and thank you so much.